sun never shines, where you shiver alone.
Welcome to the Yukon and North 61. So, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin? That used to be something that people talked about in the Middle Ages. It was the actual philosophical argument. And I've almost got to that point in my shooting career where I'm starting to really split hairs. But this was my rifle, this Forbes 24B 30-06 that took me all through the mountains. It's a really, really good gun. It's a 30-06. I've loaded it up where it should be, and so, an example, for 150 grain bullets, I can get about 30-50 feet per second. 30-06 is a big capacity cartridge for its day. And the 150 AccuBonds is what shot most accurately in that rifle with H4350. It was really a beautiful load. And it has, this is the Forbes version of the 24B of Melvin Forbes creation. And they came with a Shaw barrel. And these barrels are good, they're not great. So like most factory guns, this gun will shoot some loads really, really well. I'm getting 3/4 MOA right out to 400 or 500 yards with the 150 AccuBonds. 150 AccuBonds, a nice streamlined design. Got a ballistic coefficient of, I believe, 0.435. And I was pretty confident right to 440 yards. And if need be, 500 yards if conditions were perfect. And that's going to do for 90% of your shots, but not 100%. This gun, the thing I really love about it is it's 5 pounds 10 ounces. I found these Vortex high definition Vortex lightweights. This is the 1.5 to 8x32 with the great G4 reticle. They're beautiful scopes. They're all under a pound. This one's about 14 ounces, I believe, 13 ounces. And I got the nice Telly lightweight rings on it. So overall, this rifle weighs in right at about 7 pounds when I've got the sling on it. Pretty easy to carry around, even for a fat guy. This year I sold a bunch of rifles and I decided to put the money into something a little different. So this gun weighs 1 pound 3 ounces heavier. I couldn't get the Telly lightweights right away, so they actually threw in for free this Telly long range rail. It's a 20 MOA rail, worn steel rings. It adds more weight than I'd like, so I got Tellys on order. I've got the 2 to 10, basically the same scope. This one has an MOA reticle rather than the G4 reticle. It's got the HSR4 reticle. We'll talk about that in a minute. And it's 1 pound 3 ounces heavier. And then the scope's about another ounce. When I put the Telly rings on it, it'll be about 1 pound 4 ounces heavier than this guy. So what do you get for 1 pound 3 ounces these days? This is a heavier action. This Carbon Fury, it's 3-lug action. It's basically a Socko 85 clone. Some people say, oh my, it's just a Socko 85. No, this is all done on a CNC machine. It's blueprinted. It's just perfect. Everything is perfect. You spend a lot of money on this, but it's still a production rifle. But it's basically made to bench rest specs. So what I found already in shooting it is, unlike basically a rifle that's basically a factory rifle, this rifle shoots everything I put in it so far under an MOA. I don't have the 2-inch groups with a bad load. I'm getting 1 MOA loads with everything, and I think I'll be able to get down to close to half MOA, and I get to pick my bullets. So this Forbes, I found the AccuBond 150 just shot better than everything else. This rifle so far is shooting almost everything I put through it, including these 212 grain ELDXs. First load into 3/4 MOA. A little bit of tuning. I'll be able to shoot these enormously long, slippery bullets at 2,800 feet per second with good accuracy. Compared to the 150 grain bullets, which are slippery, but not long. Ballistic coefficient of 435 versus somewhere in the 670 range, I believe, 673. So this is like shooting a 338 Lapua. This long skinny bullet. We'll talk about the advantages of that in a second. Also, the weight of it steadies this rifle, so I find it a little bit easier to shoot because it's just got that extra weight. I'm not usually a fan of a brake, but this rifle's braked, it actually kicks less than that rifle. So this rifle is like shooting a 25-06. And for the shooter, the noise doesn't seem to be any different. For people beside me, I have to be a little bit careful. So that's one thing to be aware of with the brake. But so far, I've been a big fan of the brake. I can see bullet strikes because it's a little heavier and the recoil is managed. So it's really, really nice to shoot. There's some really nice ergonomic pieces here. This palm swell, it's asymmetric. So if you zoom in on that palm swell, you can see that it's more full on this side than on the other side. And it's just a beautiful little touch where the ergonomics are just gorgeous on this rifle. And it's still got a pretty straight stock, so that it recoils straight back, doesn't come back and hit your chin. This has got the carbon barrel on it. So this is a very, very thin barrel, carbon wrapped, and that keeps the weight down. You probably lose a pound with that barrel. And there's other advantages that people say on a cart with the carbon fiber, like heat dissipation. I don't know enough about that. What I really love about it is it's got a 3.7-inch box magazine, which means I can load the BLD bullets way out, right to the rifling, so I can tune the load. For example, this bullet, the 212, it hits the rifling at 3.576 inches. So I'm loading them to 3.550 with my next series of tests. So I'm loading it right out to near touching the rifling because it's got the nice long action. So there's very, very few compromises here as a shooting machine, but it's still reasonably light. Like I'll be able to get this, instead of 7 pounds, I'll be able to get this to 8 pounds. I will mount the telly rings on it. Now let's talk a little bit about these scopes. This scope limits out to 10 power, which some people that do a lot of long range shooting would say is a little bit low, but it's also, I've looked at the Night Forces, man, those things weigh 30 ounces. This weighs under a pound. And when I put the telly rings on it, this gun will weigh right around 8 pounds. And that's only like a pound 3 ounces different than this rifle. Can I carry 1 pound 3 ounces? I can lose 1 pound 3 ounces in one day of hiking. 1 liter of water weighs 2.2 pounds. So you're carrying a fair bit of weight. I don't think the pound is going to make that much difference. So let's talk about ballistic efficiency. These two loads, the 30-06 with 150 grain AccuBond, simply because it's the most accurate in that rifle and it's what I would continue to use. And this bullet, the 212 grain Hornady ELDX in the 300 Win Mag, you might consider this unfair, but this is what I'll probably be using, these two rifles. So the trajectory is actually remarkably similar. At 30-50, the trajectory is actually within 3%, right out to 600 yards, with the 30-06 actually having a slight advantage, simply because of the extra velocity. So that's 3,050 feet per second versus 2,800 feet per second. As far as energy at range, at 600 yards, this bullet would have 161% the energy of that bullet with the same starting velocities. The trajectory is similar. The energy is going to be much higher. It starts at about 20% higher. It keeps going up because of the extra ballistic coefficient. And the most amazing thing is wind drift. So at 600 yards, the wind drift of this is 1.5 times less than the wind drift of this. So with a 10 mile an hour crosswind, I'm looking at 17.1 inches of drift with this 212 grain. And I'm looking at 25.2 inches of drift with this bullet. So that's an extra 8 inches of drift. And 8 inches is a significant amount. Where the trajectory is within 2 inches of one another, the wind drift of this is 8 inches different. And I found that when you're shooting across canyons, the wind always seems to be blowing. So this gives you enough of an advantage. Basically, the wind drift at 500 yards is equal to the wind drift at 600 yards. The trajectory is easy to figure with the new laser rangefinders, and even with this reticle, this ballistic reticle, if we take a look at it, there's a certain range finding ability with this. These are 2 MOA apart from one another. So if you've got a sheep that's back to chest fills that's 800 yards away or so, 812 yards away. If you've got it filling 4 MOA, that's about 400 yards away. So you can actually figure out the range with the animal size and this to some degree, probably within about 10%. I still want to use the laser rangefinder, but if you need to really work quickly, that's a nice handy little thing about this ballistic reticle. So, all things considered, I think this 30-06 is a 500-yard rifle. I think this 300 Win Mag would be a 600-yard rifle. And this comes with a half MOA guarantee. I think already I can tell I'm going to make that with this rifle. Everything is just as it should be. It's got a matched chamber. It's got a matched barrel. Of course, it's a very, very expensive rifle compared to the old Forbes, which are no longer made. But these Forbes are a great rifle. I'll still take it on a lot of trips. I'm glad to have this Fierce Firearms. That's a really, really nice rifle. The ergonomics on both are outstanding. The ability to handle recoil on both are outstanding. But the recoil of a Break 300 that's 8 pounds all set up is actually remarkably low. This gun is a little bit like shooting a 243, honest to God, with that great Fierce break. So thanks for watching. North 61 out.